After obtaining the Eye of Life and Death, Luo Feng's understanding of the world completely changed. He spent his time in seclusion within the Star Tower, reorganizing his entire cultivation system and perfecting one secret technique after another. During his cultivation, Morosa suddenly contacted him with important news. He reported that the White Demon Monarch and Land Duo Monarch of the Thunder Ancient Country had secretly ordered their subordinates to plunder living creatures from border kingdoms and even from within the Thunder Ancient Country itself for 70 eras. The accumulated number of victims had become unimaginably huge. Luo Feng frowned upon hearing this. Since establishing the Galaxy Divine Kingdom more than 370 eras ago, he had never launched another large-scale purge. An unspoken agreement had existed between him and the two ancient countries. As long as no new great sins were committed, he would let past crimes remain in the past. However, the actions of White Demon Monarch and Land Duo Monarch had clearly broken this understanding. Morosa even suggested that Luo Feng should regularly patrol the land of origin and execute any great sinners he discovered, preventing powerful cultivators from harboring false hopes of escaping punishment. When Luo Feng asked where the information had come from, Morosa said it had been provided by Emperor Gui Shu and immediately sent him the detailed intelligence. The information was so thorough that Luo Feng suspected the involvement of Wuxia God Kane, who was skilled in stealth and intelligence gathering. Nevertheless, Luo Feng did not blindly trust the report, knowing that acting solely on accusations could make him a tool for others. Using the names recorded in the intelligence, Luo Feng employed the Eye of Life and Death to establish causal connections and instantly locked onto several targets, including Old Chen God Kane, Land Duo Monarch's most trusted subordinate and the person directly responsible for the plundering operations. At that moment, Old Chen God King was already deeply anxious. The plundering had continued for 70 eras, and even members of the royal family had begun tracing the matter. Although the royal family could do nothing against two powerful monarchs, subordinates like him were in grave danger. Suddenly, an overwhelming mental force descended upon him. Luo Feng, from a distant location, used the Eye of Life and Death to project his mental will directly into Old Chen God King's mind. Luo Feng's mental strength had reached an extraordinary level, touching the upper limit allowed by the land of origin. Through secret techniques contained within the Lai Yuan technique, he easily confused Old Chen God King's consciousness and examined his memories. What he discovered shocked him. The memories confirmed that Land Duo Monarch had indeed ordered the massive plundering. More terrifyingly, Land Duo Monarch and White Demon Monarch had divided the wilderness regions of the Thunder Ancient Country between themselves and systematically harvested living creatures there. Over 70 eras, they had taken approximately 1/20 of all creatures living in the wilderness. The scale was horrifying. The Thunder Ancient Country was one of the most prosperous and densely populated regions of the land of origin. More than 90% of its inhabitants lived in the wilderness areas. The memories showed countless transports, each carrying trillions of creatures, continuously delivered to Land Duo Monarch over countless years. Even compared to the crimes of Emperor Tian Kun, this was on an entirely different level. Luo Feng realized that when ancient country monarchs lost all restraint, their cruelty became truly terrifying. The situation reminded him of Di Yuan, the mastermind behind Iron Demon Lord and the greatest sinner he had previously executed. He also thought of the Black Vulture Ancestor, who had been supported by several Thunder Ancient Country monarchs. Now, without Black Vulture Ancestor's assistance, the monarchs had personally begun preying upon their own nation's people. Filled with killing intent, Luo Feng turned the Eye of Life and Death toward Mount Lighting. Through the eye's extraordinary power, he could see through the mountain's countless secrets and even identify its strengths and weaknesses. He determined that, with his current power combined with the Star Tower and the Eye of Life and Death, he could breach Mount Lighting itself. However, the true terror of the mountain lay in the presence of Thunder Ancestor. For the first time, Luo Feng directly observed Thunder Ancestor's true form. His body was unimaginably powerful, even surpassing primogenitor Yan Feng's physical strength. Despite seeing his weaknesses, Luo Feng understood that, under the limitations of the land of origin, he still could not injure Thunder Ancestor in any meaningful way. If Thunder Ancestor personally defended Mount Lighting, Luo Feng could never break through. This reflected the balance of power among the supreme beings of the land of origin. Luo Feng, East Extreme Domain Ancestor, Emperor Cheng, and the two primogenitors were all capable of restraining one another but incapable of truly killing each other. Because of this, they had maintained a tacit understanding and mutual compromise for countless years. However, that understanding had now been shattered by White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch. After witnessing the memories of the countless victims, Luo Feng's killing intent became uncontrollable. In his heart, he had already sentenced both monarchs to death. Meanwhile, in a hidden space atop Mount Lighting, Thunder Ancestor was studying a mysterious golden finger bone when he suddenly heard Luo Feng's voice directly in his ear. He was greatly shocked. Mount Lighting was a divine emperor-level secret treasure personally refined by him and protected by countless formations. Even primogenitor Yan Feng normally had to contact him through communication treasures. Yet Luo Feng's voice had penetrated every barrier and reached him directly. Realizing he had underestimated the galaxy ruler, Thunder Ancestor listened as Luo Feng informed him about the crimes of White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch and the enormous number of creatures they had plundered. Luo Feng stated that he had refrained from further killing since executing Di Yuan and only wished for cultivators to avoid committing new atrocities. But the actions of the two monarchs had shown complete disregard for him. Even so, Luo Feng acknowledged that they were monarchs of the Thunder Ancient Country and that their punishment should ultimately be decided by Thunder Ancestor. Thunder Ancestor promised to investigate and verify the matter. At the same time, he admitted that Luo Feng's strength was far deeper than he had imagined and suggested that, after the matter was resolved, he, primogenitor Yan Feng, and Luo Feng should meet together. Luo Feng agreed and then withdrew his Eye of Life and Death. Ending the conversation and ceasing his observation of Mount Lighting, Thunder Ancestor sat in seclusion when he suddenly received a direct voice transmission from Luo Feng, who had somehow located his hidden sleeping place. Shocked, Thunder Ancestor immediately contacted primogenitor Yan Feng. Both of them were astonished because their secluded residences were heavily protected, and ordinary experts could never discover them. They concluded that Luo Feng had likely obtained an extremely powerful secret treasure, possibly one of the top treasures from the infinite space. The two discussed the rarity of such treasures. Secret treasures worth more than 100,000 reward points were famous even outside the land of origin and were sought after by countless experts. Yet obtaining one was extraordinarily difficult. Even powerful figures such as Emperor Ming and Thunder Ancestor had never possessed such treasures because most of their reward points had been spent on inheritances and cultivation resources. Luo Feng, however, had accumulated more than 200,000 reward points and exchanged them for the Eye of Life and Death. Although treasures of that level were usually forbidden from being taken outside the source world, Thunder Ancestor was still envious. Primogenitor Yan Feng guessed that Luo Feng dared to reveal this ability because the treasure likely could not be taken out of the source world anyway, meaning he had nothing to fear from others targeting him. Thunder Ancestor then explained that Luo Feng had contacted him because of White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch. Primogenitor Yan Feng remarked that Luo Feng was known for hating evil and probably wanted those two punished, since he could not kill them while they were protected by Mount Lighting. He had asked Thunder Ancestor to handle the matter. Whether to help or not was entirely Thunder Ancestor's decision. Inside the Great Hall of Mount Lighting, the 8 monarchs knelt before Thunder Ancestor. He questioned White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch, asking whether they acknowledged their crimes. Both knew the Ancestor's personality well and were shocked because he had always ignored such matters before. Nevertheless, they dared not deny their actions and immediately admitted their guilt. Instead of executing them, Thunder Ancestor ordered the two to enter the Heavenly Pillar realm and obtain either a special life remnant or an innate secret treasure. If they failed, they would perish together with the land of origin in the future. The punishment left both monarchs stunned and unwilling, but they had no choice except to obey. After Thunder Ancestor disappeared, the other monarchs showed no sympathy, believing the two had gone too far. Meanwhile, inside the Star Tower in Huyang City, Luo Feng used the Eye of Life and Death to observe Mount Lighting from afar. The treasure allowed him to see traces of past events, almost like watching a massive recording imprinted in time and space. Even the actions of Thunder Ancestor and primogenitor Yan Feng left traces that Luo Feng could partially observe, though he could not hear their communications through transmission tokens. By reviewing the past, Luo Feng saw Thunder Ancestor's punishment and frowned. Sending White Demon and Lan Duo into the Heavenly Pillar realm was far from enough in his eyes. especially since none of their followers had been punished. Recalling the memories of old star god Cain, Luo Feng remembered countless scenes in which Lan Duo monarch casually devoured innumerable living beings. Those memories had already ignited his killing intent. Luo Feng had long decided that White Demon and Lan Duo had to die. He had initially hoped Thunder Ancestor would deal with them, but after seeing the outcome, he concluded that relying on others was useless. Even if there was no guarantee of success, he would personally act. He wanted justice for the countless creatures that had been consumed and hoped to deter other powerful beings from recklessly slaughtering weaker lives in the future. Soon afterward, White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch traveled to the entrance of the Heavenly Pillar realm. Along the way, Lan Duo blamed White Demon for dragging him into the situation, while White Demon mocked him for trying to shift responsibility despite having benefited from their crimes. Both were bitter about their punishment and worried about their uncertain future. At the entrance of the Heavenly Pillar realm, they noticed Luo Feng, who was guarding the area as Luo He God Cain, but neither of them paid much attention to him and simply entered the treasured land. At that exact moment, Luo Feng's Eye of Life and Death confirmed that the two had entered the Heavenly Pillar realm. He immediately acted. With one step, he arrived at the entrance. And with a second step, he forcibly passed through the formations of the two ancient countries and appeared directly before White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch. The sudden appearance of the silver-robed, gold-masked figure caused both monarchs to shudder, a deep sense of danger instantly rising in their hearts. The White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch immediately realized something was wrong when facing the Galaxy Ruler. White Demon Monarch panicked because he had no avatar and knew he could only survive a few breaths against such an opponent, while Lan Duo Monarch remained calmer since he still had an avatar hidden within Thunder Mountain. Before White Demon Monarch could speak, Luo Feng, wearing a golden mask, unleashed a powerful spiritual attack, having reached the upper limit of spiritual will in the land of origin. He used the Lai Yuan technique. Both monarchs suddenly saw only an enormous rolling star crushing down upon their consciousness. Despite being ultimate realm life forms protected by divine-level secret treasures, their souls cracked under the overwhelming pressure. The residual will of their primordial bloodlines then erupted, causing both of them to completely lose control. White Demon Monarch transformed into a pale, deathly creature with white bone wings, while Lan Duo Monarch became an ugly dark blue monster. Throughout their transformation, Luo Feng observed them with the Eye of Life and Death and discovered that after losing control, the number of weak points on their bodies increased from only dozens to countless thousands. Realizing their defenses had greatly weakened, Luo Feng summoned the 9-story star tower. As it descended, it even affected the flow of time, making it impossible to evade. The tower instantly struck both monarchs. This attack represented Luo Feng's latest breakthrough. Since obtaining the Eye of Life and Death, he had advanced from an 8-branches fusion secret technique to a 9-branches fusion secret method, a true ultimate realm technique of the great Tao of life and death, while also unlocking more of the Star Tower's power. At the moment the Star Tower struck, White Demon Monarch briefly regained clarity and sensed that he was about to die. He could not understand why Di Yuan had managed to survive for a few breaths while he himself had no chance at all. The Star Tower completely annihilated him, and its curse-killing and causality techniques destroyed all of his resurrection carriers, even those hidden within Thunder Mountain, leaving him no possibility of reincarnation. Lan Duo Monarch was struck at the same time and all of his external avatars were destroyed. However, his main avatar inside Thunder Mountain survived because Thunder Mountain blocked most of the curse-killing power. Luo Feng frowned upon realizing that he had only succeeded in killing White Demon Monarch completely while Lan Duo Monarch remained alive. He once again understood how difficult it was to kill an emperor or monarch under the laws of the land of origin. Luo Feng collected the divine-level secret treasures left behind by the two monarchs and regretted letting one enemy escape. Deep within the Heavenly Pillar realm, the godly kings of the two ancient royal families were completely stunned. They had witnessed the Galaxy Ruler instantly destroy two monarchs, with White Demon Monarch dying so thoroughly that even his causality disappeared and he had no chance to reincarnate. They concluded that the Galaxy Ruler had become in existence as untouchable as the ancestors of their nations and vowed never to offend him in any way. The news quickly spread throughout the land of origin, and many godly kings viewed the recorded battle scenes. At the entrance of the Heavenly Pillar realm, Emperor Chu contacted Luo Feng and warned him not to interfere with beings at the level of the galaxy ruler, emphasizing that even the slightest disrespect toward such existences could lead to complete annihilation. Luo Feng reassured his master while secretly feeling touched by his concern and continued to conceal his identity to protect his master and the human clan from becoming involved in his affairs. Meanwhile, in Thunder Mountain, Lan Duo monarch sat in shock after discovering that every one of his avatars outside Thunder Mountain had been erased and that he had also lost 2 divine-level secret treasures, which had become the galaxy ruler's spoils of war. Although frightened by the galaxy ruler's strength, he eventually calmed down, realizing that surviving, even at such a cost, was far better than suffering the complete destruction that had befallen White Demon Monarch. Soon afterward, Lei Shao Monarch summoned him to pay homage to the Thunder Ancestor, and Lan Duo Monarch immediately set out. In the secret world of Mount Lighting, the Thunder Ancestor was studying a golden fingerbone when he sensed his monarchs approaching. By tracing causality and spacetime, he quickly learned about the events in the Heavenly Pillar realm and became furious. Although he had already punished the White Demon Monarch and Lan Duo Monarch to give the galaxy ruler face, Luo Feng still personally killed the White Demon Monarch, which the Thunder Ancestor saw as a direct challenge to his authority. Outside the Source World, the Thunder Ancestor was always cautious and endured many dangers. But within the Land of Origin he feared no one and refused to tolerate disrespect. His cultivation path was naturally violent and domineering, and the more he suppressed himself outside, the less he could endure defiance at home. Believing that a junior who had never left the Source World dared to challenge him, he immediately left his secret realm. An endless sea of violent thunder descended upon the capital of the galaxy Divine Country. Countless lightning serpents spread across the surrounding lands, and the Thunder Ancestor's furious shout, demanding that galaxy come out, shook the entire region. The disturbance was so enormous that all powerful cultivators across the Land of Origin sensed it. Lan Duo Monarch was delighted, believing that the Thunder Ancestor would finally suppress the overbearing galaxy ruler. In his eyes, the creatures that had been devoured were mostly from the Thunder Ancient Country and had nothing to do with the galaxy Divine Country. So Luo Feng had no reason to interfere. Far away, the East Extreme Domain Ancestor observed the situation. She noted that primogenitor Yan Feng had tolerated galaxy-killing Di Yuan. Yet the Thunder Ancestor could not even tolerate the death of the White Demon Monarch. She believed the conflict would not be easy to resolve. Emperor Qing also watched from afar and thought that a clash might be beneficial, as Luo Feng's domineering personality needed tempering before he ventured outside the Source World. In his opinion, suffering a small setback in the Land of Origin was preferable to suffering a devastating defeat outside it. He also believed that the Thunder Ancestor's strength, especially his mastery of the primordial bloodline, far surpassed Luo Feng's. Throughout the Land of Origin, countless experts, including primogenitor Yan Feng and ordinary godly kings, paid attention to this confrontation. Even Luo Feng's close allies, such as the primordial ancestor and the mountain-sitting guest, worried that he could not contend against one of the supreme ancestors of the Land of Origin. Inside the galaxy capital, Luo Feng had long anticipated the Thunder Ancestor's arrival after killing the White Demon Monarch and calmly waited. As the endless thunder filled the sky, Luo Feng coldly responded that the Thunder Ancestor's subordinates had devoured hundreds of millions of creatures and therefore had no right to question him. A gigantic beast like Phantom Head suddenly appeared and swallowed the entire Thunder Domain. This scene shocked the East Extreme Domain Ancestor, Emperor Qing, and primogenitor Yan Feng. The Thunder Ancestor's Thunder Domain naturally operated at the upper power limit of the Land of Origin. Yet it had been completely devoured. Luo Feng then rose into the sky wearing silver armor and a golden mask. His aura alone reached the power ceiling of the Land of Origin and revealed an unimaginably powerful life form. Primogenitor Yan Feng immediately judged that Luo Feng's physical body had already reached at least the early stage of the Divine Emperor level. Emperor Qing and the East Extreme Domain Ancestor were also astonished, realizing that Luo Feng's confidence came from genuine strength. The Thunder Ancestor himself became serious. He no longer cared that his Thunder Domain had been swallowed. What truly concerned him was the method used to accomplish it. He realized that Luo Feng possessed at least an early-stage Divine Emperor body. In the Land of Origin, such a body was nearly impossible to destroy. This discovery changed his attitude entirely. He understood the significance of a cultivator who had never left the source world yet had already reached this level physically. Once Luo Feng ventured outside and gained access to broader knowledge and opportunities, his future achievements could become extraordinary. The Thunder Ancestor, who had learned to endure powerful figures outside the source world, suddenly decided that Galaxy was someone he should also tolerate. Still appearing angry, the Thunder Ancestor changed his tone and began reasoning with Luo Feng. He argued that when the White Demon and Lan duo had previously committed crimes, Luo Feng had informed him first and he had punished them accordingly. This time, however, Luo Feng acted directly without notification, which showed no respect for him. Luo Feng was surprised by this sudden change in attitude. He clearly understood that his physical strength was actually still far below the Thunder Ancestors. Nevertheless, he firmly declared that his attitude toward great sinners had never changed. Everyone in the land of origin knew his principles. And since the White Demon and Lan duo understood his character yet still committed such atrocities, they had effectively disregarded him and therefore deserved to die. At that critical moment, a hearty voice suddenly interrupted the confrontation. A robust man appeared and tried to mediate, saying that all cultivators of the land of origin should support one another and there was no need to become angry over such a matter. Luo Feng had already used the *Eye of Life and Death* to observe the entire land of origin for a long time. So he naturally recognized the powerful figure who appeared before him. If the Thunder Ancestor was known as the most terrifying existence in the land of origin when it came to physical body strength, then this burly and robust man standing beside him was considered the most mysterious. Even with the Eye of Life and Death, Luo Feng could only vaguely see parts of his abilities and could not completely understand him. Luo Feng greeted him, calling out, "Primogenitor Yan Feng, ****. Yan Feng laughed and praised the land of origin for producing another extraordinary cultivator. He then turned toward the Thunder Ancestor and advised him not to become too concerned over such a small matter. The Thunder Ancestor, although calmer than before, still felt that his dignity had been challenged. He admitted that White Demon Monarch's death itself was not important, but what bothered him was that Luo Feng seemed to completely ignore his existence and authority when dealing with matters involving Thunder Ancient Country. Yan Feng laughed and explained that if Luo Feng truly ignored the Thunder Ancestor, he would not have sent a message informing him about the situation. White Demon Monarch and the forces under Lan duo Monarch had clearly crossed a line and provoked Luo Feng, so their deaths were understandable. The Thunder Ancestor accepted Yan Feng's words but still maintained his position. He told Luo Feng that he would give Yan Feng face and let this matter end here. However, from now on, Luo Feng should not interfere in the affairs of Thunder Ancient Country. Luo Feng agreed that he would not interfere in the internal conflicts and management of Thunder Ancient Country. However, he firmly stated that if members of Thunder Ancient Country committed crimes or caused chaos in other regions, he would still take action. The Thunder Ancestor responded that as the royal family godly king of Thunder Ancient Country, he should be the one responsible for disciplining those people, even if they made mistakes. Luo Feng understood the implication behind his words. The royal family members of Thunder Ancient Country would inevitably create trouble throughout the surrounding territories, and the Thunder Ancestor intended to handle those matters himself. However, Luo Feng shook his head and stated that the Thunder Ancestor's discipline was too lenient. The Thunder Ancestor frowned and reminded Luo Feng that even if Luo Feng eventually reached the Divine Emperor's perfection realm and became equal to them in strength, everyone would still need to compromise. No single person could decide all the rules of the land of origin. Primogenitor Yan Feng also explained the situation. The strength of Divine Emperor-level existences surpassed the power limit imposed by the land of origin, meaning they could no longer truly harm each other within this source world. Furthermore, the land of origin was their homeland, not a battlefield suitable for fighting among themselves. According to ancient traditions, when two powerful figures could not convince each other, they would compromise, establish rules, and make everyone follow them. Luo Feng explained that he had no interest in interfering with the affairs of other ancient countries or involving himself in ordinary conflicts. However, there was one thing he could not accept: beings who committed massive atrocities by devouring millions of living creatures. In his view, such individuals were great sinners who had to be eliminated. He hoped both Primogenitor Yan Feng and Thunder Ancestor would agree to this rule. Yan Feng did not strongly oppose this idea. As an enlightened expert, his focus had always been on guiding younger generations toward enlightenment rather than involving himself in such conflicts. He understood that some royal experts cultivated through primordial bloodline methods because that path was easier. But he did not consider those issues his main concern. The Thunder Ancestor, however, disagreed. He believed that all cultivation paths naturally included competition between strong and weak beings. Powerful existences devouring weaker ones had always existed throughout history, and such behavior was not unusual in the cultivation world. He questioned why Luo Feng wanted to interfere when even ancient existences such as Senior Yuan had not specifically acted against such cases. Luo Feng calmly replied that the land of origin was his homeland. Since he had the ability to influence the situation, he wanted to protect it and prevent unnecessary destruction. The Thunder Ancestor looked at Luo Feng carefully. At their level, each person possessed their own beliefs and understanding of cultivation. The Thunder Ancestor had witnessed countless brutal events during his long cultivation journey. So he did not view the devouring of millions of lives as something especially shocking. However, he acknowledged Luo Feng's conviction. After some thought, the Thunder Ancestor agreed. He admitted that with Luo Feng's current strength, Luo Feng was qualified to establish rules within the land of origin. Very few cultivators could escape if Luo Feng personally pursued them. Luo Feng then pointed out that if the Thunder Ancestor chose to protect certain great sinners, there was nothing he could do. He understood that the greatest crimes in the land of origin were often committed by powerful emperors and monarchs from the two ancient country royal families. Therefore, if he wanted to establish a new rule, he needed the agreement of both ancient ancestors. Otherwise, their protection of their own factions would prevent any real change. Hearing this, primogenitor Yan Feng smiled and commented that perhaps it was finally time for the land of origin to undergo a transformation. The Thunder Ancestor realized that their viewpoints could not be reconciled through discussion. So he proposed following the ancient tradition of the land of origin, a duel. He declared that if he won, Luo Feng would no longer interfere in Thunder Ancient Country's affairs, including matters involving its royal family. If he lost, he would acknowledge Luo Feng's rule and agree that all great sinners who devoured millions of lives should be eliminated. If the three Divine Emperor realm experts reached an agreement, it would become an absolute decree for the entire land of origin. Luo Feng was surprised by the proposal but accepted it. Yan Feng immediately reminded them that there was a huge difference between their cultivation levels. The Thunder Ancestor had cultivated for an incredibly long time and had reached the Divine Emperor's perfection realm, while Luo Feng was still much younger. Even with powerful secret treasures, Yan Feng believed Luo Feng's chances of victory were extremely low. The Thunder Ancestor admitted that Luo Feng possessed powerful treasures and that, under the restrictions of the land of origin, Luo Feng might have a slight chance of winning. However, the gap in their realms remained enormous. Despite this, Luo Feng still agreed to fight. He understood that if persuasion failed, a battle was the only remaining option. Moreover, this battle would allow him to personally experience the techniques of a Divine Emperor's perfection expert and expand his own understanding. The Thunder Ancestor laughed and expressed admiration for Luo Feng regardless of the outcome. Yan Feng suggested that they fight in the universe ocean outside the land of origin. Their battle was too significant, and it would not be appropriate for ordinary factions within the source world to witness it, unless they intentionally hid themselves. Even ordinary godly kings would be unable to observe their movements. The three figures immediately departed from the area above Luo Feng's galaxy Divine Kingdom and arrived at a vast region of the universe ocean beyond the borders of the land of origin. Soon afterward, two more figures arrived: Emperor Qing and the East Extreme Domain Ancestor Feng Shi. Emperor Qing introduced Feng Shi to Luo Feng. Luo Feng had already discovered some of her abilities through the Eye of Life and Death. In terms of life form strength, Feng Shi was around 50% stronger than Luo Feng at that moment. Her physical body had already reached the early stage Divine Emperor level. Without even considering her other techniques and abilities, Yan Feng looked at the gathering of experts and sighed emotionally. The land of origin finally had 5 Divine Emperor realm existences, but producing even one such being was extremely difficult for a source world. Luo Feng felt a rare sense of connection at that moment. Regardless of their different factions or beliefs, all 5 Divine Emperor realm experts had originated from the same source world. Once they left the land of origin and faced the outside worlds, they were the ones most likely to trust and rely on each other. Before the battle began, Yan Feng, Emperor Qing, and Feng Shi moved far away to observe. A powerful invisible domain isolated an enormous area, preventing all creatures within the land of origin, including the 3 alien clans, from spying on the duel. Luo Feng and the Thunder Ancestor faced each other. The Thunder Ancestor began explaining his own journey. He had spent countless eras outside the source world, studying various cultivation systems and searching for greater possibilities. Through countless experiences and risks, he had forcibly pushed his primordial bloodline cultivation to its limit within the braided cage, reaching the half-primordial level. Although the power of the land of origin restricted their strength, it could not suppress their understanding, techniques, or battle methods. Luo Feng replied that he had never left the source world before and asked the Thunder Ancestor to fight seriously, because he wanted to broaden his horizons and learn from the experience. The Thunder Ancestor agreed. He then revealed one of his most powerful techniques. In the past, he had once devoured a low-level primordial life form. From that experience, he extracted its bloodline characteristics, created a corresponding bloodline secret technique, and continued improving it until it became his own perfected ability. A drop of his blood floated forward. That drop of blood contained the essence of a perfect-level divine emperor expert. Instantly, it transformed into 9 different creatures. Each creature possessed strength that reached the maximum level permitted by the land of origin. They stared at Luo Feng with strange and terrifying expressions, laughing crazily as they prepared to attack. Luo Feng immediately activated the Eye of Life and Death on his forehead. Through his observation, he discovered that the 9 creatures were completely different in nature. Some were formed from thunder energy, some from flames, some were illusions, some were spiritual entities, while others were composed of strange dark winds or other mysterious forces. The diversity and complexity of these techniques shocked Luo Feng. The Thunder Ancestor had combined countless cultivation systems and transformed them into a single terrifying secret technique. Fortunately, the supreme rules of the land of origin restricted their maximum power, preventing these techniques from displaying their full destructive ability. One creature formed from flames suddenly disappeared and appeared beside Luo Feng. Terrifying flames ignited across his body, burning not only his physical form but also penetrating into his fundamental life units. Fortunately, Luo Feng had already cultivated the powerful multi-hoofed clawed creature form world life form. If he were still using his previous 24 forms world life form, his foundation might have already begun suffering damage. At the same time, another creature released endless thunder. The violent lightning struck Luo Feng repeatedly, leaving faint marks on his body. A spiritual creature attacked directly at Luo Feng's mind, sending strange voices into his consciousness and attempting to destroy his will. However, Luo Feng's spiritual will had already reached the upper limit allowed by the land of origin, and with the protection of the Lai Yuan technique, he completely resisted the attack. Another strange wind swept through his body, penetrating every gap and reaching his fundamental life units. Blood-colored flowers also appeared on Luo Feng's body, absorbing his energy and attempting to grow stronger. All 9 attacks arrived simultaneously. Luo Feng had no opportunity to dodge and could only endure the combined assault. The Thunder Ancestor calmly explained that because of the power restrictions of the land of origin, his secret technique could only display a small portion of its true strength. Even so, Luo Feng had performed extremely well by blocking it. However, the real purpose of the attack was not only to injure Luo Feng. While Luo Feng was forced to defend against 9 different techniques at once, how much strength could he still use to fight back? Luo Feng acknowledged the point. When completely focused on resisting the attacks, he could only spare around 20 to 30% of his attention to execute his own techniques. He praised the Thunder Ancestor, recognizing the enormous difference between their realms. Then, Luo Feng finally revealed his response. A 9-layered ethereal tower appeared around him, the Star Tower. The moment the Star Tower enveloped Luo Feng, all attacks targeting his body, soul, and spirit were completely blocked. Under the restrictions of the land of origin, no force could bypass the Star Tower's protection and cause even the slightest injury to Luo Feng. Protected by the Star Tower, Luo Feng finally had a chance to fight Thunder Ancestor. Without a secret treasure, He could not resist the erosion of the 9 strange forces and had no hope of winning the wager. However, merely hiding inside the tower would still count as defeat. He had to confront Thunder Ancestor directly and gain the upper hand. Luo Feng transformed into an endless blood river made from his multi-hoofed clawed creature form and engulfed Thunder Ancestor. The river attempted to suppress, imprison, and tear apart his opponent. But Thunder Ancestor remained completely unmoved, his perfected body immune to all external forces. In response, Luo Feng launched the Star Tower as a meteor-like attack, empowered by his comprehension of the great Tao of life and death's secret branch. Meteor. The Star Tower froze time, split space, and struck with an unbreakable force, knocking Thunder Ancestor back several steps. Both Thunder Ancestor and primogenitor Yan Feng realized that the pagoda was an extraordinary super-secret treasure, likely created by top-tier beings and worth more than 100,000 reward points. Thunder Ancestor then created 8 avatars and formed a massive formation that suppressed time, space, matter, and life, greatly weakening the Star Tower's attacks, even after using an ancient stone pillar to strengthen the formation further. He could only trap the Star Tower rather than suppress it completely. Primogenitor Yan Feng and Emperor Qing were both astonished that Luo Feng had already forced Thunder Ancestor to use a secret treasure. When Thunder Ancestor asked whether Luo Feng had any other methods left, Luo Feng admitted that he would need to use a forbidden power. Entering the Star Tower, he opened the Eye of Life and Death and focused on the mysterious 12-colored blood scales within the tower. Although he could not fully understand them, he had spent countless years discovering a way to draw out a tiny portion of their power. A streak of blood-red energy spread throughout the Star Tower, turning it entirely crimson and releasing an aura so terrifying that even Thunder Ancestor felt pressure from it. The blood-colored Star Tower attacked again, piercing through all obstacles and sending Thunder Ancestor flying in a miserable state. Forced into a corner, Thunder Ancestor unleashed his strongest treasure, the Thunder World 10 Absolute Formations. 10 Thunder avatars and formations merged into a complete Thunderworld that suppressed all foreign forces. Even so, the blood-colored Star Tower could still penetrate the formation, though it initially could not locate Thunder Ancestor. Using the Eye of Life and Death, Luo Feng carefully observed the structure and energy flow of Thunderworld and instantly identified dozens of weaknesses within its operation. Following these flaws, the Star Tower repeatedly pierced through the maze-like formations and directly struck Thunder Ancestor's hidden position. No matter where Thunder Ancestor moved, Luo Feng could find him and hit him again and again. Because the land of origin restricted everyone's power, neither side could truly injure the other, and the wager depended entirely on who gained the advantage. After being struck repeatedly and unable to reverse the situation, Thunder Ancestor finally admitted defeat. Although he had believed from the beginning that Luo Feng had only a tiny chance of winning, he never truly thought he would lose to a junior who had never even left the source world. Luo Feng humbly admitted that he only won because the land of origin equalized their power. Outside this world, the difference in strength would have been too great for him to even fight back. Thunder Ancestor accepted the result gracefully, declared that Luo Feng had won fairly, promised to personally deal with Lan Duo, and then departed.